Hey guys, so a while back I ended up replacing the blades on my lawnmower and I did a video about how to do that. But ultimately what I really need to do is I need to replace the entire pulley system that operates the blades on the lawnmower because it makes a lot of noise and there's quite a bit of vibration in the blade deck. So I finally got those pieces in and that's what I'm going to do today. Alright, so my first step is to get the blade deck unattached from the lawnmower. Now I showed how to do this in my first video on how to replace the blades, but if you didn't watch it, then I will repeat this for everyone. So first thing I want to do is I want to lower the blades as far to the ground as possible. This gives me maximum amount of space underneath the lawnmower to work. I have 7 pins, if I remember correctly, that I need to pull, and that will detach the blade deck from the lawnmower. So I've got one right here that I need to pull, and then there's one on the opposite side in the exact same spot. And then moving on this same side, I've got one right here. And again, there is a exact same one on the opposite side of the blade deck as well. I got a really small one right back here. This is the only one like this. And then the others are all visible from the other side of the lawnmower.
There it is, number 7.
Okay, so I did remember correctly, there are 7 pins. You got 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and then you got that one right in the middle. Once you disconnect them all, the blade deck is going to be sitting on the ground and you can slide it out. It will be easier to then raise the blades on the lawnmower. Of course, the blades aren't connected, but the connection points, the arms will raise up, and that will allow clearance to be able to just slide it out without it catching on anything. So I'm going to be replacing all the pulleys here, the belt, and I'm going to call these towers, but these 2 towers right here that these main pulleys connect to, I'm going to replace those as well, which go down underneath the blade deck, and that's where the blades actually mount to. And last time I had an issue where the bottom of one of the towers where the blade connects was extremely worn down, and so the blade wasn't biting onto it properly. And so that's why I had to order these so that I could get it so that the blade will mount appropriately like it should. To start with, I'm just going to get the belt off. I don't need this, and let's get it out of the way. Okay, with the belt off, I went ahead and flipped the blade deck over. I'm going to remove the blades next because I know that they have to come off, and I need to get them out of the way for when I remove these blade towers, basically. So if you watched my video on replacing the blades, you might remember this, but if you didn't, this is the reason why I'm replacing the towers. You see how this star pattern here that the blade goes onto, it's very worn down and kind of rounded here, and it's just been worn away. And to show you what it should look like, that's what it should look like. So really this one is fine, but since I'm going to replace the other one, I'm just going to do them both. Okay, so I'm going to start with removing what I believe to be the hardest pulley, and that's this one since it's half covered up here. So I'm going to remove this cover, and what I've got here is I got 3 different bolts holding this on with a hex head, and I'm going to use it's a T30 hex head to get it off. Now this one it was too tight to be able to use a socket in there, so I just had to use a hex wrench, and I was able to get this in there. It was really dirty, so it took a little bit of work, which is why this one's already removed because I've been fighting with it off camera. And I've got one more here on the back side and then one more on the front. I was able to get the socket on them, so they're already loosened. So I just need to finish removing them, and then we'll get this plastic cover out of the way and I'll have access to this pulley. Okay, this probably isn't necessary, but since this is putting some tension on the pulley, it's just touching it, I'm going to remove the spring right here. So just let that sit there, and now this can pull away and I don't have it touching anymore. Okay, at this point the pulley should just pull straight off, but it's not, probably because it's basically just rusted on. So I'm gonna hit it with some WD-40, let it sit for a minute or two, and then attempt to pull on it again. And if it doesn't want to come off, then I'll probably get a hammer involved and I'll correct its attitude about this. WD-40. All right, so we have a washer underneath the pulley. Want to remember that for when we install the new one. And at this point, it looks like I just need to remove 3 bolts, and then the tower will come out from the bottom side. Okay, I got the first one out. Now, this just comes off of it now that the bolts are in it. I'm keeping this because I do not have new ones of these, but I do have a new one of these. So here is my brand new one to replace it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this pulley and this tower next. So this one should be a lot easier since there's nothing covering it up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start and remove this spring right here, get that out of the way. Next, remove the pulley, and then the 3 bolts down here to hold the tower in, and then that one should come out. Okay, next I'm going to remove this one. Now the bolt head is on the bottom side, but it's flat, so you're just going to want to stick your finger underneath the pulley and just right in between the pulley and the blade deck there, and just apply tension to the bolt head and just push upwards and then hit it with the impact gun. Well, I can't get this out right now. I'll probably have to loosen that one. I need to see if I even need to take this out, if I have a replacement bolt here. If I don't, I'm just gonna leave it in. All right, you can see the head, it's flat, and it's got a square around by the threads here, so it sticks up in there, and it's not able to move at that point. But if you're trying to get the bolt off, or I should say you're trying to get the nut off of it, if you don't apply tension here, it's just gonna start spinning and you're not gonna be able to get it off. So you need to make sure you're applying tension on the bottom here and keeping it in place, and then the nut will come off. Okay, for this one, it's gonna be the same thing. You need to apply tension to the bolt head underneath. So I can't get my finger in there, so I'm gonna use a pry bar, apply tension to it, and then you need a deep head socket to be able to get down on there. All right, I'm ready to put the blade deck back together. So I did give it a quick rinse, and now that it's clean, I'm gonna put it back together with new parts. So this is the new pulley, and when you put it on, you want this side to go down. So just like that, put the nut back on, and applying tension underneath, just like to take it off. Okay, now I'm going to do my second small pulley. So drop your next one on. Okay, so I got 2 bolts in right now, and make sure you include that circular metal bracket that goes on the bottom side. And then when you reinstall this, it should go in with the slot right there. And you just kind of if you can just match it up if you don't remember with the rust stains, because you'll probably have rust stains too. So if that matches up correctly, put your bolt in. And I'm just gonna get them all down as far as I can by hand before I hit it with the impact gun. Okay, time for a new pulley, so make sure the washer's there. This pulley does not seem to have a difference between a top or a bottom, so there we go. And before I move on, I need to make sure that I reattach the spring that I took off. Okay, the right side is done. All right, now that I got the pulleys fully reinstalled, I'm gonna go ahead and put the blades back on. Now make sure you put your blades on correctly. This is not the correct way. You see how the blade bends? You don't want these bends to face towards the ground because this sticks down past the blade deck. So that's not what you want. So make sure that they face up. All right, so they're facing up towards your butt when you're sitting on the lawnmower. So I still need to put this cover back on over this tower, but it is a lot easier to get the belt onto the pulley without this in the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that first and then reinstall this. Okay, last piece is to make sure you get the belt back on the pulleys correctly. You should have a belt diagram on the blade deck. I have one right here that shows the direction the belt is supposed to feed around to be able to, of course, interact with the pulleys correctly and so that your blades will actually function. So everything is back together, so I'm going to slide this back underneath the lawnmower and reattach everything. And then I'm going to back it out of the garage and test fire it, make sure that the blades come on and it functions properly. Okay, so I just checked and made sure that the blades work properly, and they do, and I have eliminated the major vibration that I had going on, probably related to one of the pulleys with the bearings being bad in it. I am pretty happy with how all of those turned out. I did not waste my money replacing all those parts. If you need to see how the blade deck is reinstalled, in the first video that I did on the lawnmower where I replaced solely the blades, I do cover in detail how to reinstall the blade deck. I didn't feel like doing that again in this video simply because I've already done it. All right, so that's it for this video. Make sure to give me a thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on the DIY Grunt.